I see it though. I still can't believe we had the Tyler hero. I still can't believe we had the Tyler hero. I already started doing it. You said forever. Yeah, I'm chilling. Oh, how's everyone doing though? Yeah, I missed like
Hello? Oh dear, he's frozen. Oh, he's back. Miggy was frozen for a second. Okay, is the audio coming through? It is indeed coming through. Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I don't know. I've been like having like hella technical difficulties lately. I don't know why. I
You
figured
might
out the solutions and stuff, but you know.
you might want to turn your volume up a little bit, Deuce. Yeah, you're well on OBS, turn it up.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Testing. All right, you talk.
All right, I'm talking.
All right, I turned you down a bit. I'm turning myself up. Wait, I gotta boost my gain. That's the problem. All right, I'm a professional.
Yeah, I think you got to boost it on OBS is the thing.
No, I had to boost like my actual audio interface volume.
Ah. Okay, so are we ready to start?
Yeah, I mean if everyone's here, everyone's here. Miggy's still flickering green a bit. I don't know if he's good. It's the most scuffed episode. And yo, Miggy. Wakey, wakey! It's podcast time.
Dude, I don't know what's going on with my thing. Like, I don't get it. It's been like a lot of like technical difficulties, so it's whatever.
We'll roll with it.
We'll
We're
go
ready.
with it. I don't know. It's whatever.
So
All
what's
right,
up, everybody? Welcome to
so anyway,
another episode. Do you think?
Oh god, never fails to to work. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Nephew Hours. It's been a while, but I'm your host Migi. Joining me today is Deuce and
What up?
Dan. How you guys doing?
I am doing all right.
All
I'm on
righty.
reading week. I've been not
The
doing
hell's
that
reading week?
nearly enough reading. It's like spring break, but for Canadians because
Why
the
is it called
Canadian
reading week?
school year starts at a different time, so it happens a little earlier.
Oh, I guess. Weird. But we have a lot of things to talk about though. In this episode, we're gonna be covering the Nets somehow coming back from a 24-point deficit over the Suns. We're gonna be talking about how the Jazz have won 19 out of their last 21, and talking about how comparatively to the West, the East is a lot weaker, and maybe a dumpster fire. Who knows? But we got a lot to talk to you about. So let's get it started. You guys can lead this off, because I know Dan, you're really excited to talk about James Harden and the Nets more than I am.
Well, I do want to say that first of all, congratulations, Miggy, for
What up?
getting published on Bleacher Report.
Okay. Shout out Nest Republic. Check out that website. On the side when I'm not doing this and my other full-time job, I write for Nest Republic. So my game recap got posted on Bleacher Report. It's been a movie because I woke up to it. And I was like, oh gang. So it's been lit. Hopefully I can get on there more. It's the stuff I write, so I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, going back to it, again, like I said, the Nets and the Suns, played on national television.
Do we want to
last
start
night.
with the serious story first, or we'll do? Which do we want to?
No, I thought we were gonna talk James Harden.
All right, let's do James Harden first then. So little background of this game: no KD, no Kyrie. They're both look, let's be fair to them. Some people might be derisive and call it load management, but KD's coming off an Achilles, and Kyrie has had a bunch of shoulder injuries in the past couple of years of his career. Although honestly, they're
his back.
yeah, they're both having career seasons this year, but I digress. They have missed quite a few games.
And also for reference though, KD's also going to be sitting out the Lakers game on Thursday.
Oof.
Yeah, but Kyrie's probable. But yeah, go on.
So the Nets came back from down 24 points to win 128 to 124.
Let's go, baby.
because what is defense even? Without KD or Kyrie Irving.
Shout out. Yeah.
I want to give James Harden's stat line. 38 points. 14 of 22 from the field, 5-11 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 steal, only 2 turnovers, and only 2 fouls.
It's gang out here.
He put the team on his back. No.
It's not even that though. So like the crazy part was like, yeah, sure, like Harden did score 38.
He made everyone else on the floor better. That's the thing.
I know. Joe Harris had another quiet 22, and then you had Tyler Johnson having the best game of his like career with a 17-point revenge game on the Suns, and freaking Landry Shamet finally hitting shots again. Yeah. Again, for all you guys who do not know, huge Nets fan. So obviously I stayed up relatively late. I'm on the West Coast, so I wasn't really bothered by the game ending around 10 o'clock compared to our East Coast brethren. But, you know, honestly, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Going into the game, knowing that Kyrie and KD weren't going to play, I expected nothing. I just wanted to see, you know, which role players eventually, you know, step up and be like, okay, well, they can get some run for, you know, playoff rotation minutes maybe.
They got some run, all right.
They got some run, and you know, made it seriously count. I know James Harden in his press conference was like, yeah, you know, it's like how championship teams are formed with like this next man up mentality, and you know, the Nets have won 4 straight since being embarrassed by the Pistons, and I think they might have actually started turning a corner.
I can't believe you guys actually lost to the Raptors.
Yeah, with that whole KD debacle, we know we would have won if KD could have actually played the whole entire game.
Hey, that was dumb as hell, though. Like, that was so. When was the last time KD played a full game against the Raptors?
Full game against prior to the Achilles injury, like
probably regular season 2019. Yeah.
I think December of 2018 was actually the last time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while, and he could have probably destroyed you guys. No bias.
No, you're right. No one was beating the KD Warriors, though, but that's beside the point.
That is beside the point because again, I think look, I know you guys bring up like the defense thing because you gave up like 75 in the first half, but again, it's been the story this whole year. If the Nets want to play defense, they'll play defense. This is evidence in the second half when they limited the Suns to only 44% shooting and only scoring 49 points for the rest of the game.
44% isn't like great, but it's not that bad. It's just.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like instead of giving up like 60 like the whole entire game, they're going. You know, they at least. Like my thinking is this, like I get it, like you're giving up like 110, 120 points a game, but if you're able to get like a couple of stops here and there, that's good, and you still get the win. Like all that matters is the win, statistical points aside.
And that's the thing; they're not necessarily trash on defense. It's just they play with a pretty high pace comparatively.
True.
The thing about the Nets.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, my throat's kind of messed up.
All good.
The thing about the Nets, I actually don't think KD's actually like a very good defender, and he's still a pretty good defender even after his injuries. Yeah, no, I would agree with you.
That's the crazy part.
Harden is wrongly characterized as a bad defender. I think that. So, yeah,
someone said it.
It's true. Look, Harden has this reputation as being one of the greatest scorers ever.
Yeah.
And people automatically assume that means he can't play defense and is a ball hog.
Mhm.
Clearly, neither of those things are true, but like we still have to kind of talk about it because it's such like common knowledge, despite being complete nonsense.
Yeah.
He is a little bit of a ball hog at times, but clearly he knows when to step back and sort of take a more point guard role because he
Which
did
is
that.
well, he is the point guard now.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Because you
Kyrie
see,
admitted it.
look, Kyrie just wants to score. Kyrie's like,
Because that's
and
his specialty, though.
yeah,
Like,
he doesn't need to run the offense. When he doesn't need to run the offense, he has this amazing like he just gets to dance around the rim and make crazy shots and score 35 points a game or whatever.
casually. um, no, but yeah, again, like again with the pace like that the Nets play at, because they always try to get into transition. That's been always like what Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni have been trying to get out on offense. Like again on defense though, like again, you score 110, 120 on them, right? But at the end of the day, if the Nets get enough stops on you and they win the game, like sure you can complain about the defense and all, but it's like who won, right?
That's
The Nets
true.
did,
Well,
right?
this really was a clinic in outscoring your opponent, though. I want to just look at the box score for a second.
Yeah, because I mean they
Um,
were down by 24 and they
mhm,
still somehow won by 4
Look
points.
at the at the half, the Nets had 54 points.
Yeah.
By the end of the game, they had 128. They
And
scored 74 points in the second half.
and that's without Kyrie and KD.
What's that? Without Kyrie and KD, which
That's not
is look, I know a lot of that is Harden is a guy who is very, very good with other shooters. Like you
Mhm,
wouldn't think of him as being like a guy who benefits a lot from being around other offensively gifted players because he is himself probably, I would say, certainly top three offensively gifted in the
mhm,
league. I think KD and Jokic maybe have an argument for being higher.
mhm,
Um, but he benefits so much because he's got this great passing vision, and that's why you got games from Tyler Johnson and Jeff Green and Shamit, and of course Joe Harris is like the perfect player for this team, the same way Seth
insane.
Curry is like the perfect player for the Sixers. It's
You
like
guys see that oh sorry, finish your point, sorry.
yeah, that was my point.
Like do you guys see that ESPN finally gave him his respect after they ranked him below Duncan Robinson? I didn't forget.
Dude,
But look at this
Duncan
man.
Robinson. It's like like Heat are talking like Duncan Robinson's in a slump. Duncan Robinson's still shooting like 40% from three,
But
which
Joe
should
Harris is just so much better.
well 40% from three should be good enough for
Right.
anyone.
Yeah.
It's only not good enough for Duncan Robinson. Because if Joe Harris is shooting 40% from three, which is still really good, it's
He
like he
just
can
does
still
other
do other
things.
he can still do other
Yeah.
stuff. Like our
Yeah.
best 3-point shooter and most consistent 3-point shooter is Fred VanVleet. He's not a super consistent, like he's shooting about 40% from three, but he does all
Mhm.
that other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, going back to Duncan Robinson, he doesn't do those stuff and people forget and we're just hype off the bubble.
Was a pretty
But
impressive bubble run, I will admit.
one thing that I do want to bring up though with the Nets game too, is again like I think in a sense you can say this team is finally just I guess turn a corner. You can say because again the majority of the past month since the Harden trade has been where does how does everyone work out? How does everyone fall amongst the rotation? How does um you know where do you go when you play with Harden? What spots are like more you're more comfortable in, right? So you can be wide open for the for the your shots. And so with that, right? Now you see the Nets are starting to put in together some solid win streaks now, right? And they're making it look relatively easy in the sense they're putting on scoring clinics, like it's absolutely nothing. And so again, defense, according to Cleaning the Glass, which is a really good statistical website that you guys should look at from time to time. Um, the defensive rating for the Nets is maybe ranked 24th, but their offensive rating is literally number 2. And so
Who's ahead of them? I'm curious.
the Clippers by like 0.9.
The Clippers have had the most obscene 3-point shooting season I've ever seen. It's
Yeah.
blowing my mind how insanely great they are at shooting the three this year, and it's somehow not reverting to the mean yet. Which a quarter through of the way through the season, you would think it would happen, but it hasn't yet.
But like I give all respect to Clippers, but again with that though, like the Nets, they don't lead, they don't just chuck up a bunch of threes. Like a lot of, Kyrie and Katie, like they make their living in the mid range and at the basket. And so again, for for a team that, relies a lot on jump shooting and to be putting up 120, points a game, like I think it's an offensive clinic. Um, and I know I'm gonna bring this up again, but come playoff time, with the fact that you have three, great isolation superstars in Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, who can easily take, whoever's defending them one on one and still score on you. Um, that's what you're gonna need in the playoffs, right? They're easily able to do that, and they're also smart enough to be like to know that if one of them is going to go off, they're going to be double teamed, and someone's going to be open, whether it's either the other two superstars or the other players in rotation. And I think now with the past month and everyone's getting into a groove, especially role players like Landry Shamet, who's starting to hit his shots, Tyler Johnson, who's after the Philadelphia 76ers game has gotten some good minutes in, Jeff Green being a um, reliable, glue guy, Bruce Brown, doing what he, slashing to the cup and playing great defense. Everyone's bought into their role, and it's starting to hit the Nets are starting to hit a stride. And if and it's a big if here, if the Nets can somehow without KD beat the Lakers on Thursday and also beat the Clippers on I believe Sunday, I can very much see them running the table till the All-Star break and going to the break 25-12. No, but like I'm not even trying to be biased about it. Like I can realistically see that happening.
I mean, we've had teams pop off these insane streaks, like the Raptors last year won 15 games in a row. Utah, who we'll talk about next, has
Yes.
won 19 of their last 20 games, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Um, the Knicks are on a very impressive 3-game win streak.
Ending after tonight, yeah, we're getting freaking bounced by the Magic right now, though. So
is it really
by
that bad?
the Magic?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh,
yikes!
Wow, y'all
But
really scored 14 points in the third quarter, huh?
It's the hospital Orlando Magic.
Yeah, they don't
Oh
even
wait,
have
let me
Fultz,
just
man.
check something.
Yeah,
Terrence,
go for
how
it.
many points does Terrence Ross have? Oh, he has 27, of course.
Does he have his typical 27
Yeah,
points,
he's
0 assists?
Terrence Ross, 6th man of the year.
Give it to him.
For no
no, he's
reason,
not. Just kidding.
Terrence Ross just 27
Oh my
points.
gosh.
Yeah, that man hates us.
For those who do not pay attention to the Orlando Magic, Terrence Ross is a sharpshooter who tends to have random games where he just scores 25 to 30, and you're just like, how the hell did that happen?
He had a random game on the Raptors where he scored 50.
Yeah, see, like he's that player where you're just like you don't expect him to do well and like go off, but then when he does, you're just like, oh well, here we are, But besides the point, though, you brought up the Utah Jazz, Dan. I also wanted to talk about Utah. Yeah, they have the highest net rating in the league.
But before we move on, Deuce,
Oh,
any
what's up?
thoughts about the Suns versus Nets?
I mean, it was a good game. I don't really have anything else to say. I feel like we talk about the Nets too much.
That's fair. We do talk about the Nets too much.
You guys are just mad that my team is just good, and all you guys are just hanging out in mediocrity.
Whatever. D has a ring, and I have a real team, so
We're
flexing.
Hey, Deuce. This is my last point on the battle for New York. Deuce, New York City may be a Knicks town, but it's a Nets world, baby.
The Nets what?
it's a Nets world.
Okay, dude. Yep.
Shout out Katie, Gangway, Nets
Yeah,
world.
you guys are the Yankees. I forgot. All over the world, everyone's just rocking Nets jerseys. I forgot.
The Knicks are actually ahead of us in the standings. The Knicks are 14 and 15.
It's
Oh
the East,
gosh.
man. We'll get into that. We'll get into the
We'll
Yeah.
get
East.
into that. But
We'll get into that.
flipping over to the opposite conference, another red hot team, like Dan brought up, the Utah Jazz. Again, number one in net rating. Again, for those who don't know, net rating is the difference between how much you can score versus how much you give up. Um, and so yeah, they have the highest net rating according to Cleaning the Glass. Um, they've won 19 out of their last 21. They they play beautiful ball movement. Deuce, if you can pull up that clip if you whenever you're ready. But yeah, everyone's contributing on that team, and Mike Conley isn't even playing right now.
He isn't.
Yeah, it's
No, he's
they
been out
did
for the
this
past six
last year
games.
too. It's
But
they're
like
pretty
even
insane.
then though, with Mike Conley, they've been on this run. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
already rejuvenated, and they look really like they lead. They're the top. They're on the top of the Western Conference with I believe a 23-5 record
which is the best
record
in
in the
the
NBA.
best start in not only the best record in the NBA, the best start
Oh
in the
really?
history of their franchise, including
Yeah.
the Stockton and
What?
Malone years.
You want to
Really?
hear something crazy though?
What's up?
There's part of that is they notoriously get off to slow starts, right? This happened last year. This happened
Yeah.
the year before. Happened the year before that. It's been
It
happening
happened
for a
this
long
year,
time. Yeah, but you know what I think part of it is
What's
like
up?
they're typically trash in like October and November, right? We skipped
Yeah.
that. So now they're just good. They're
Oh,
just good now.
can't be trash if you don't play in those months.
Exactly, yeah. There was no
um.
November basketball for them to be trashing. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
no trash November.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
just me like
Okay,
thinking a
that's
little bit.
something. Um. Wow.
It's the opposite
But
effect on us because in November last year, Siakam was putting up like 27 points per game.
Yeah, we'll see how it comes with fraud.
fraud.
Ouch.
But okay, but going going back to Utah though, you can say that their star, their all-star, their star player is Donovan Mitchell.
You can't even be
Um,
put it all on him. That's the thing. They're
you
playing
can.
well
That's
as
the
a
thing.
team. Quinn Snyder's a great coach. I've been saying that
I
Yeah,
would say Quinn Snyder, without a doubt, is the front runner for Coach of the Year this year.
for
I
sure.
thought it was.
I can
I-
see it.
It
Absolutely.
looked like it. Well, because I think the Coach of the Year award should be for coaches who vastly improve their record or who
Mhm.
overachieve without many roster changes.
Yep.
The Jazz had one major roster change. I think it was God. Was it Conley? No, he was on the Jazz before. I
Conley
think.
was already this year. I mean, they got Bojan back. They didn't really like. You look at their core; it's really the same. Favors, Ingles, Gobert, Bojan. It's
Well,
majorly
Favors
the
came
same.
back from
Yeah.
New Orleans though, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Right. He had that one year stint
He was on
in
the
New
road. Yeah,
Orleans.
he's not playing
Yeah,
sizable minutes
it's
though. But yeah.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
generally speaking, it's I think for it should be for coaches who overachieve given the circumstances. Last year, I think Nick Nurse deserved it because he
Yeah.
lost, the Finals MVP and still was
Right.
second in
Still,
the
yep.
NBA record-wise.
Absolutely.
This year, not so much, but whatever. We'll talk about that later. Uh,
I just.
uh,
Oh, sorry.
they don't
Go
have a
for it.
clear. It reminds people of the 2014 Spurs because of how good their
Okay.
ball movement is, and
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
fact
switch
they
up to
don't
that. Yeah.
have a clear. I guess the 2014 Spurs had Tim Duncan and Kawhi, who Tim Duncan was kind of on his
And
way
Tony
down.
Parker and
Kawhi was
Ginobili.
on his way up. How could you
Come
forget
on.
about those two?
How can you go? Yeah, how can you?
Yeah.
um, no, but okay. So, but to your point on the ball movement, I agree with you. But I think a lot of it also stems from I believe as much as like Mike Conley is your primary ball handler, right? Donovan Mitchell has also like slowed the game down. Um, in a sense that like if you comparatively saw it like last year, in the past in his rookie year to this year, right? You see Donovan Mitchell, he loves to, go straight to the basket, yam it on someone, maybe like 2 seconds on the shot clock, pull up for a mid range or something, right? But now you see him and you see him and he slows the game down. He finds someone open, and it starts a whole chain reaction. And like again, I had a clip that I found, and it was this post on Twitter. Deuce, you can pull this up,
I have it
if you
ready.
can. All right, pull
I
this up.
have it ready.
Is this
Ready? Okay, boom.
The Utah
Yeah, like what?
Utah Globetrotters?
Yeah, the Utah.
Right here, Royce O'Neal to the left side, behind the back from
Oh, it's
Bogey
beautiful.
before he touches the
It is
floor.
just
Right.
Watch this.
Because look at that. Like
That's some
everyone's touching the ball.
LeBron level passing right there. It's beautiful.
it's everyone on the team can
Insane.
pass.
Right here,
It's
Royce.
just
Right. See, like
having 5 people on the floor who can shoot
Yeah.
well. I mean, 4 people, and also Gobert, who is more than making up for it in other aspects
Yeah.
of his game.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like, again, the ball may have started with Royce O'Neal, but again, they're they're swinging it around because they're throwing the whole entire defense off, right?
I want to
Because
mention something specifically about Mitch.
what's up?
Like, cause I've been big on the Mitchell train since his
Yeah.
rookie year, since he first got noticed as like,
Yeah.
oh, he's doing well for a guy that was drafted. What was it, 14th?
13th.
13th. Excuse me.
Yeah.
He's really refining his game,
Mhm.
becoming more of a veteran. Not only is this is career best in efficiency for him because he kind of was starting
Wow.
to get this reputation as the chucker, even though I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now he's putting up 45 and almost it's just about 39% from three. And he's
Mhm.
he's seeking his teammates more. He's becoming a better passer. He's just all around just refining his game. And I think that's
Yeah,
a big part of their improvement.
and his 3-point attempts are way up, to be fair. But he's making 39% of them. So
Yeah,
it's not as
exactly.
if
He's taking the right. It's his shot selection's way better.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Um,
and it's very rare you see such a huge jump both in volume and efficiency from 3.
which is and again, to that point too, though, like again, like a lot of those opportunities I feel as well are like based off the fact that again, Utah is so well chemistry wise and knowing where each other are on the floor and their ball movement that again you know a lot of defenses in the NBA run man to man and switching defenders. So if I'm guarding someone and I get screened by someone else, that person who's supposed to be guarding the screener obviously will switch on to who I was supposed to be defending, right? So no one's left wide open. But Utah's been so masterful at driving into the paint, kicking out, swinging the ball around, and now the defense is left confused, and now someone's wide open. In that case, in that clip that we had Deuce pull up, Joe Ingles is wide open for the three, and by the time the defender's there to try to contest it, it's the ball's already left his hand.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
and to add on to that, I think that the
mm,
difference between a team like the Jazz and a team like the Raptors, who also do a lot of drive and kick offense and try to play with a bunch of shooters on the floor,
mm,
is the Jazz are also fifth best league wide in opponent 3-point percentage. They are very good at defending the three, so
really? Okay.
they make more threes than
All
their
right.
opponent. 'Cause,
I'll take it.
with the Raptors, they'll hit like a bunch of threes, and then their opponents will hit like even more because the Raptors don't have a center and have to help out a lot. The
Yeah, their
difference with the
their
Jazz
net
is
rating is insane. They're second in defensive rating. They're fourth in offense, which is pretty insane.
Oh my gosh.
it's really
Oh wow.
really and it's just really well oiled, beautiful basketball. It's like and it this is if you are talking to someone who
Mm.
is like, oh my god, the 3-point era completely ruined basketball. Show them a Jazz game. It's like it's so elegant to watch. It's just
I feel like this
polished.
is more so how basketball. When teams are just chucking them up, then you can get into that. But like, I feel like that's the way it's meant to be played with passing, not just
Yeah.
guys going to
And
half court and then throwing it up.
Yeah,
and to
then
your guys' point though, I think that's like how the game adapted. And again, shout out to the Spurs and shout out Steph Curry for ultimately changing the
Shout
game
out
to where it
Curry.
is now. But look at him, so inspirational. But I don't know. And again, we all saw Charles Barkley get mad that everyone's just shooting threes. But like let's be real here though. Like how efficient is backing your defender down from the 3-point line going to work out for you, right? But with
when you're Charles Barkley, you can back someone down from almost
yeah,
anywhere.
but
But
you're going to take up like 20 seconds of the shot clock, and if you don't make the shot, you wasted the whole entire possession. Like I think with the amount of 3-point shooting that teams are doing now, it's the fact that the skill level in the sense that teams are, players are quick and fast enough to get open. Everyone can shoot instead of like everyone's pegged into a specific role. So you can spread out the whole entire floor, and so you can just drive in, one on one, or if they bring help, again, you swing out and there's the ball starts moving again and it keeps passing. Like Deuce said, that's how the game is supposed to be played,
yeah,
right?
I would honestly compare them probably to the Heat or the Raptors last year, before
Okay.
both of their teams exploded, because they have this kind of very elegant drive and kick offense. The difference
Yep.
is the Heat
Mhm.
are sorry, the Jazz are just hitting like everything. They're
Yeah.
because
That's fair.
they're selecting their shots so well. And also, I need to add this. I'll say it again. Their opponents are only 35.3% from three, which is
Wow,
fifth best in the league,
that's
which is
crazy.
really good. And it's
Jeez.
like, it's not just that net rating that you look at. They're building that by having this great perimeter game,
Mhm.
which is not something you expect from a team whose defense is anchored around Rudy Gobert.
Right.
Mhm.
Just one
So
more
I have a
stat I
question.
want to point
Oh,
out.
sorry.
Do you know how many 3-pointers they've made thus far this season?
How many?
469.
Oh, what?
Nice.
Nice. Nice.
469. And
Yep.
I
Nice.
honestly don't know if the Heat's offensive, the Jazz's defensive system would work if they didn't have a paint protector as gifted as Rudy Gobert.
I think so too. Like, do I think his $200 million like is a lot? Yes,
Apparently not. Apparently not.
but I think it's a lot. But I think for a team like Utah who could absolutely not replace him, I think it's a good deal for them.
Well, look, we've seen what happened. I think there was a mistake somewhere along the line. People thought that you could just not have a good center.
Yeah,
And that's not true. It's like trying to build a soccer team or a football team for our European listeners without a goalie. It's like it doesn't work. And I'm not
well,
saying that the center might not be the same level of dominance, but right now, two of the best players in the league, Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, are centers. And okay, you also have Giannis and you have KD, who are both 6'10".
and so I think to your point though, I think the reason why people like shied away a little bit from you can have like a random center and you'll be okay was because I think the 2016 20 like the KD era Warriors with it was Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond, and random center, right? You could have like the Warriors were that good that you could just plug in a
Disrespecting
random.
the great Andrew Bogut.
No, well he was gone after when KD
I know.
arrived. Yeah, so like, but that's what I'm saying though. You can have like because of that Warriors team, everyone's like, okay, well maybe we don't need a big man. We can just outshoot people. But now that like you said, the two best big man in the league, and also leading the MVP race in Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid.
Big men who can shoot and pass.
Yes, and that's the name of the game now. Like sure, Rudy Gobert is like your defensive stalwart, but he can pass.
And
He's
look,
not,
he can't shoot at all, but that doesn't matter. It's the same with Bam Adebayo. He can't shoot the three very well, but he can pass. It's
and
like
he can
you need
also hit the mid range when he needs to.
exactly.
Yeah, like I mean, to an extent too, like again, and I'm not trying to be Nets biased, like DeAndre Jordan, when he actually, is locked in, provides enough defense to make it work, right?
Yeah.
And is also a consistent lob threat. Like
Whereas if you have someone like Aaron Baines, it might not.
if you have someone on the Toronto Raptors named Aaron Baines, who can't do anything,
To go.
you're kind of
Finished 2 layups against the Bucks.
yes.
I'm very proud of him.
Um,
Against Robin Lopez or Brooke Lopez, who unfortunately is also starting to look a little washed. It's quite sad
yikes.
because he was so good
Oh man,
at his peak.
he was the Nets franchise guy for so long. But going back to the Jazz though, before I kind of want to bring this up to you guys. Um, so I want to give one quick shout out, Filipino pride, to Jordan Clarkson, sixth man of the year for me. Dude's just I have averaging 18, like 6 and 3 off the bench. And is he had like a huge 40-point game. So shout out to Jordan Clarkson, Filipino pride. Let's get it. But the one question though I did want to bring up to you guys is this is do you think the Jazz offense, the way that they play it, again, ball movement is very key, but they don't have isolation players. Come playoff time, do you think what they can do is sustainable? Because in my opinion, look, ball movement is super important, right? But when you can't go against the guy one on one in a 7 game series, I think that's where you're gonna falter a little bit here because in a 7 game in the playoffs where you're facing a team up to 7 times, right? Because you got to win 4 out of 7. The other your opponent's gonna watch film, and they're gonna be like, okay, this is what they do on offense. This is how we stop it. Let's practice it, and they're gonna keep doing that until the series is over. And so once a team figures out what you do on offense, and you have to suddenly now start relying on isolation scoring, I think that's where the Jazz kind of get into trouble.
The
Because
the reason
realistically, I think Donovan Mitchell's the only one that can like create his own shot and go from there.
the reason I don't necessarily agree with that is because their style of play, it's already a lot of half court sets. It's already
Mhm.
like very good in the half court, which is again, if you look at a team like the Raptors, that's not something they had last year when they had a similar style of drive and kick offense with a bunch of shooters on the floor.
Yeah.
Um, they have a much more reliable half court offense because their guys are more reliable shooting the three. And furthermore, I think their defense is a lot more cohesive. I think they don't need to help off of shooters to guard the paint because they have Rudy Gobert, who is, you know, probably the best paint defender in the league. And when I say probably, I mean definitely, but I want to
Mhm.
maintain plausible deniability in case I'm forgetting someone.
Yeah, so no, I get what you're saying here, and that they're good in the half court offense. But again, I bring up the point where again you're facing a team, you know, for a 7 game series, right? Again, for best 4 out of 7. Um, but again,
Look, if you find a team that has the defensive personnel to guard 4 shooters and Gobert, be my guest. But I don't know if that team exists. Maybe the
probably
Lakers,
not. Maybe, who knows?
maybe the Lakers, maybe the Clippers, but actually probably not the Clippers because they don't have.
Maybe not. But I just still believe though, like even with all the ball movement, like again, I'm a huge proponent of like the ball movement and like getting efficient threes, right? I still believe at some point you're still going to need isolation scoring. That's what I feel like what comes down to it. Like again,
They
you know,
have isolation scoring from my perspective. They have Donovan Mitchell, and it's like, look, you might
well,
need
yeah,
him to. I don't know if he's
that's
going to
what
put up 50 a game again, but
No,
probably
the
not.
bubble
But
was
like,
an anomaly. Look at Jamal Murray's back
yeah,
on Earth, but like
facts.
Jamal
I think
Murray's
he's good.
actually he had a slump, but now he's doing a little better. But
He's doing
Oh,
better, but
Nuggets.
he's not
did his
freaking
girlfriend help him out
Michael
a little
The,
bit?
Jordan
the,
and
issue, the
Curry
issue is
combined.
the Nuggets are missing half their team
He
right
was
now.
literally
Did
freaking Michael Jordan and Curry combined in that series. It was
It's true. It was
ridiculous.
the most
He
amazing
freaking
shit I've ever
bubbled.
seen.
It was
did Jamal
insanity.
Murray get help from his girlfriend? Is that why he's coming back into form?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, cool, good
He
job.
gave him that sloppy toppy.
Okay. That's
Oh,
Obi Toppin's new
God.
nickname.
Oh, don't say that. No, no.
All
Oh
right.
my gosh.
Anything else you
Any
want to
point?
say about the
Yeah.
Jazz?
No, I've said Deuce. I know. You've been kind of chilling. I kind of
The
want
genre of
to
music.
hear.
I agree.
All right.
So it's a good job. Okay, so moving along. If you guys look at the standings, we are about halfway through the season. More
Quarter.
about quarter
It's
way,
like third.
almost halfway. Third away of the
Um,
season. We're about like 5 games away from halfway, I would say.
yeah,
Um,
we played 20. like 28 games to 28 to 30 games. It's 72 games
Yeah, so
in
we're about
season.
5-6 games away.
It's a
To
little confusing because a lot of teams have missed games.
Yeah. Freaking COVID. I hope you guys are staying safe regardless. But man, I
Mhm.
hope this is all over. But I do want to bring up if you guys do look at the standings, it's a weird little mess here. Because if you look at the Western Conference, you have three teams that I believe are above 20 wins already, and every team has a record that they have. I think all eight. The West has 8 teams that have records above 500. They got more wins than losses. But if you look at the other side of the country in the East Coast, in the Eastern Conference, you only have uh, 5 teams that have records that
Four
are
teams
500 and
above
above.
500. The
Only four
Pacers
teams
are at
above.
Pacers are at 500, which is
Oh,
like
because they're 14
insane
and
to me.
14, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and also a big sidebar here too. Um, while the West, I believe, has 4 or 5 teams with records, that with the West has 4 to 5 teams that have won 60% of their games or more. In the Eastern Conference, only 2 teams, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, have won 60% or more of their games.
Yeah, and that number, you might be able to include the Bucks in that category if it weren't for J-Rue being out, but it's still a pretty stark
But even though the
difference.
Bucks are like on a 4-game losing streak and like free
Yeah,
falling right now, but
because of J-Rue being Drew Holiday
Drew
being
Holiday.
gone. I've been
Everybody says
mispronouncing
J-Rue.
his name for this whole time.
But no, but to that point too as well. If again, if you look, if you guys take a look at the standings here to our listeners, who are either watching this on stream or going to look on this at YouTube or Spotify. If you look at the NBA standings as of February 17th, um, after the 5 teams that have records equal to 500 or greater, every team after that has records where they have more losses than wins, and that's kind of it's
You
kind of
just
rough.
That's a truism. You just said, well, if you look at every team below the ones that are at 500.
Sorry, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know where I'm going. But you
You're
guys know
right
where I'm
though.
going
I
with it.
get what you're saying.
You
I
guys,
get what you're
I
saying.
hate you guys. You know where I'm going with it though. But again, I don't know if it's a parity thing that the East just loves cannibalizing itself and they're actually more balanced, or the East is just absolutely garbage, or that
Well,
the West is just that a little bit better than the East,
I think
and or it's all a combination of the three.
holy shit, the Cavs are on an 8-game losing streak.
Yeah,
Rip to them.
Colin Sexton cursed that team by writing that Players Tribune article, because since then they've lost. They've gone on that 8-game losing streak since then.
Oy. And that's after,
Uh,
like, right after they beat the Nets.
yeah, and you know, Colin Sexton also pissed off Jared Allen, and if you pissed off Jared Allen, you must be one toxic motherfucker, because
Yeah, Jared Allen
Jared Allen's
doesn't.
like the most chill like basketball player you can ever see. Like literally, like the biggest emotion you can probably see from him in a game is literally him maybe yelling after a dunk or maybe clenching his fist when you foul him hard. He is so mellow. Like if you see him like out of a game, like outside of the game, like dude just loves talking about like Nintendo and like video games
I want to see
and
the
like
Jared Allen
STEM.
versus OG Anunoby poker game.
Dude, like this guy is so chill and happy. Like the fact that Colin Sexton somehow pissed him off, that team is down bad.
Yeah,
But
and
sorry, continue
I
on your point.
it's not even a parity thing because if you look at the bottom of the bottom of the East is way worse than the bottom of the West. It's like it even
Is it
still.
though?
Well, because I guess now teams like the Knicks and the Hornets are not considered the bottom anymore. But look at a
Oh,
team
that's
like the
true, I
Bulls.
guess.
Look at a team like the Bulls, or the Heat, or I
Oh,
feel
okay.
bad because the
Well,
Heat have been stricken
so
by injuries. Look at the
yeah,
Magic.
like
Look at the Magic who are 10 and 18.
they're also been
They
stricken
would
by
be
injuries.
okay. You know what? Maybe that's why the East is not doing so well. I actually have a
Yeah.
list of excuses here for
Okay.
almost every team that was a contender in the East last year.
Okay.
The Sixers, Celtics, and Heat have had players out with COVID and injuries.
Okay.
Obviously, Joel Embiid, you need to manage his minutes because
And
he's injury
again,
prone.
to be fair to the Sixers, though, I mean they're 18-10 and they're leading the Eastern Conference. So
Yeah, that's a
does it
perfectly
apply to them?
respectable record.
They do. Does it apply to them? Yes, but they're doing a better job like managing that point. But continue. I got some counterpoints to this though.
Yeah, the Nets have two stars who are often afflicted by injuries. Kyrie's back and
Mhm.
shoulder, as well as Katie's Achilles.
Mhm.
Even if you want to look at the teams that were better last year, the Pacers have been hit by a curse from a vengeful
Mhm.
god. I swear, like every player on their team is. They did not. Every player on their team's hurt. They didn't deserve this. One
Mhm.
of their players has possibly kidney cancer, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Karis, I
Karis
really
Levert. They thank God they found it early.
Yep.
But yeah, continue though.
just complete and look, everything on that team should be better. And at the start of the year, it was way better. Like they were looking
Yeah.
amazing at the start of the year. The Raptors started 2-8. They've been better since then, but have
Mhm.
been playing every game in Tampa Bay, which is kind of a huge change. There's also issues with the team's construction, which I might talk about later if there's time.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
would say probably on average, if you take away the injury issue, most teams in the East are better. I think the Knicks are probably the best example of this, because Julius Randle has decided to become like an
Mhm.
all-star. He's averaging like 23, 10, and 5 or something, which is amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
he's just waiting for Deuce to get a reaction out of
He's
him.
all
Yeah,
right.
basically.
I would say the most impressive part is that he's shooting freaking 40% from three. Like that's nuts.
That's just no way.
I didn't know
do you
he
think
was a
I don't is
three-point
this
guy.
is that sustainable?
Maybe it's not. It's 4 attempts, dude. Like it's not even low attempts.
Oh, never mind. No, never mind.
Like it's not like
No, that's
40
lame. I thought he was like chucking up like 5 or 6.
it's
40%
4.4,
is
homie. It's not that bad for a freaking power forward. Like
True. fair.
on 4 attempts. 40% is high enough that I would say yes, it is sustainable.
maybe not sustainable, but like I don't think he's just straight. Like I think, he's not gonna freaking drop down to 32 at the end of the season. You know what I'm saying?
And that's
like
what she wrote.
it's
Deuce cursed him. He's doing it. He's doing
They
it.
said that they say the same thing about
not how the Deuce
Siakam when
curse
he was
works.
started the season at 39 and then he dropped to 35 and then
Well,
this
Siakam's
season,
bad. Randall's pretty
well.
good.
But before we
That's the difference.
get off topic and bashing other players,
Yeah.
especially Siakam, who's not spicy.
No.
Going back to the point though,
It's a really good stretch. People just hate him for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't. It's just
I don't
it's
hate him.
sad
He's
to
just
see
not
it
good.
happen.
I don't
Going
mind him
back
at
to it
all.
though, let's like I do want to bring this up though because again, like you have teams like the Pacers, the Celtics, the Nets, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Heat. These are teams that they've gone through injuries, right? But again, if you look at the Sixers, the Nets, I'll even give a pass to the Pacers on this one. They're still winning games pretty, pretty consistently. Sure the Pacers are kind of like, on and off with it, but the point I want to bring up about it is what separates the good team, like the really good teams that when you look at the Eastern Conference, you're like, okay, well I can see them in the finals compared to those that are not. It's the Sixers and the Nets, and to an extent the Bucks as well. Um, their rosters are if you look
They have
up
star
and
players. They have star power.
they have stars, yeah, but I mean you can say same thing about the Celtics. They have star power. And same thing with Miami Heat. But the point I'm trying to get at here is that um the reason why these teams are the the top of the conference, going 1, 2, and 3 respectively, and the 3 teams that you can say like, okay, I can see the Bucks, I can see the Nets, I can see the Sixers in the finals, is that if you look at the roster beyond the star players, they have good enough depth to be like, and it was a prime example last night with the Nets game, right? You have 2 of your star players out, but who steps up anyway? Their depth, right? You see
I,
it with the Sixers, like Embiid is out. Get Tobias Harris, who you can consider maybe a star, but everyone else, and you have Seth Curry step up as well. And I
I,
think that's what's what makes the difference here.
But again, there's teams like the Raptors that have depth who have not been performing nearly as well. And I think, well, I mean, we have depth. We changed like half our rotation players, so we're
Yeah.
kind of figuring out how much depth we have, which is why we're better now than we were at the start of the
Yeah.
season. But I think a lot of the East teams are ravaged by injuries. It's not really within their control.
Mhm.
The thing that surprised me a little bit, though, I will admit, I thought the East would be closer to parity with the West this year because they had this, I think, an influx of talent from my
You know,
perspective.
Counterpoint. I think there is parity, but however, because I'm looking at the standings right now, I think a lot of it is just either they just beat each other up consistently, and that's where the parity's at,
That's what I'm thinking.
or the fact.
No, but that's not true because the bottom of the East is also worse than the bottom of the West, minus the Timberwolves,
Well,
who
but the
are
but the bottom of the
still
East has always
trash.
been bad though. That's the thing. We shouldn't be surprised that the Cavs, the Wizards, and the Pistons are on the bottom because they're
I think
always
it's
like
just
that.
tighter within the middle. I really think that's part of the
Yes,
problem.
that
Like, I don't
that's
think the
that's what I'm
West.
trying to go at here. Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree
think
with
the
Deuce on that
top
one.
of the West is just outclassing the top of the East. Well, I don't know if that's word, but like
Look,
I just
I
feel
think
like
the
the East
West
just
is
tight. I don't know.
better at every single position in the standings, like every single
Yeah.
one. Like
Uh,
there's no exceptions to that. The Rockets are a 13 in the West. They would be tied for ninth in the East, or the tied for 10th in the East.
Yeah, I get it though, but
Uh,
like I still think though, like comparatively to the West, because I feel like the West is just still more top heavy than it gives off. Because again,
Rockets are getting
you
their backs blown out by the Sixers right now. I mean, that kind of story.
yikes.
Rockets are on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think though, again, like look, the top half of the West is above 500. The bottom half isn't, right? But sure, like I feel like, and I'm gonna side again with Deuce. Like I think it's just more the fact that the East has more parity in a sense that they in the middle tier between 4 to 10, you have teams that can evenly match up with each other, right?
I don't know about that. I honestly don't think the
Yeah, I think
Bulls
so.
match
The,
up evenly with the Pacers or the Celtics or even the Raptors.
The Bulls are a weird case because like
Yeah, they can win if they want, but then they also lose really close games for no reason.
yeah, on paper their talent is good,
Same.
but like they just
Yes,
have like this mentality. They're the Bulls. They're just
yeah,
losers. It's weird with
but
them.
but again though, like going back, like I think there's parity there, but again, I think as well, like it's also how team construction is. Your team is constructed. Again, with the Raptors point, like you said, Dan, like they started off slow because they had to redo half the roster, and again, given time, it's been working, right? Um, but
We
with
lost to the Timberwolves and then beat the Bucks, so that's how our season's going.
But again, I mean, but they started out like what 2-6, 2-7,
2 and
and
8.
now, yeah, but now they're 13-15. Like it takes time. Like my main concern is, if I'm the Eastern Conference and trying to be like, yeah, we can compete with the West,
We
is
can't.
that, I mean, if you're the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks, especially the Nets, who have the best record amongst all of them against the Western Conference, like I think the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks can go toe to toe with the West, 100%. I'm gonna die on that hill. Um,
Well,
because
we'll
the
see who makes it out. We'll see who makes it out of the East because nobody thought it was going to be the
Brooklyn.
Heat last year, and they ended up taking the Lakers to 6 games, which I thought was, given the circumstances, pretty impressive. Given that the two of their best three players were injured.
Riding Brooklyn, you already know, who are 8-3 against the Western Conference. But but back to it though, like fourth is the Celtics, right? And so again,
But
we
again,
admit
Tatum's been out. Tatum's been out
Tatum's
for
been
a
out,
bunch of games.
Brown's been out, Kemba Walker's been out. I get that,
And Kemba Walker's not back
but
yet.
like you
He's been
can't
doo-doo.
you can- yeah, pretty much. I can't believe the Celtics fans really try to tell people that Kemba was better than Kyrie. Such
No,
a
Kemba's
oh
not
my
even better
God,
than
bro,
Lowry.
never.
It's like come on.
such a clown
Never,
move.
bro.
Fucking Celtics fans.
Never.
Celtics fans are like delusional on a whole different level.
Never.
But
I actually
freaking
really
Bill
like the
Simmons.
Celtics team this year. Minus the fact that they are the Celtics. I actually
Minus
really
Jeff
like
Teague.
this
Jeff
Celtics
Teague's
team.
dog shit.
Okay.
But yeah, and you see that Deuce brought it, like kind of adds to my point though on that one because like I said earlier, the top 3 teams in the East have depth. The Celtics claim to have depth, but they don't, right? Because again, you have Marcus Smart, you have Jason
Marcus
Tatum,
Smart's
Jaylen
been out.
Brown, but he's been out, right? Like, but the thing is, again, it's next man up, right? Like,
The
sure,
Celtics had crap depth last year too. The only change in the positive direction is Peyton Pritchard, who is for a rookie doing amazing.
but again, that's the thing though. Like, again, when you compare it to the Nets and the Sixers, who have dealt with injuries to the superstars, the role players step up, and in this case, again, you have injuries to Smart, Kemba, Tatum, Brown. These, like, your core four. You're asking. It's not hard for you to ask like the remaining 8 to 10 players on the roster, be like, hey, it's all hands on deck. Let's get to it, right? Because again, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are having great years. Like,
Amazing, both of them.
but when you look at the bench and you're asking like Jeff Teague,
What bench?
unproven like rookie Aaron Nesmith, Semi Ojeleye, who hasn't even panned out.
Semi Ojeleye, for no reason, scored like 25 points on like 7 of 8 from 3. It felt like
one time though, like, and then
of course he would though against us.
yeah, but like that's the
Friggin'
thing though,
Peyton
like
Pritchard.
yeah, like you can't consistently always ask them to step up because they're not, and so that's what falters like the Celtics, and
It's wild to me
bunch
that
of
they're
other
about to
teams.
be 500. Like after they're about to lose to the Hawks, they're currently losing to the Hawks.
They had
by
an amazing
13.
start to the season, and they just
It's wild to me that they're going to be
Yeah.
500. 14,
yeah. That
14.
means the top 14. That means only the top 3 teams in the East are going to be above 500.
Yeah,
Which is sad, honestly, because I
It
thought
is.
this year
Very.
I thought was going to have a lot more parity between East and West.
and again,
And
like Deuce said, there is. Oh, but between East and West. I'm sorry, I thought you meant just amongst the conference.
I actually don't think there is much parity amongst the conference because I really look, if you're talking about like mediocre teams, yeah, sure, the East have a lot of them. The West has more good teams than the East does. The West, I would argue that their records would be better, those Western teams, if they were playing against Eastern Conference teams. You really think the Mavs wouldn't sweep a season series against the Wizards?
I hope not.
Whatever?
We have their pick.
Oh crap! I don't know. I don't know. I think going forward though, I think the East is going to be okay. Will the records come playoff time be a little sketch? Maybe.
A lot of it is injuries, though. I think we have to admit it's like a lot of it is a lot of the top East teams and sort of the Middle East teams. Middle East, like Jordan, Lebanon.
Yeah.
Those teams have been ravaged by COVID, and COVID protocol restrictions.
I think again, like, given the fact, the season's still technically early, but we're still getting to that point. I think by the end of the season, we'll have like, 6, 7 teams at 500 or above, and I don't
Same
think
as
that's
last year, essentially.
yeah, same as last year. Like, it'll go back to the mean of like things like, because you have the Miami Heat, who are, I don't know, they're confusing, so I can't really say much. But I can't see the Heat being like worse than 500, or the Toronto Raptors being less than 500, if the Pacers have somehow great injury luck after this, All-Star break, then, sure, yeah, I can see the Pacers maybe finishing a game or two above 500.
Pacers would be like a 2 seed right now if not for all those injuries. It's like genuinely depressing.
Debatable, but like that's the thing though. Like, I think the East will be fine. Are they going to be better than the Western Conference? No, unless your name is the Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks, and Philadelphia.
Oh my god! You're only throwing in those other two because you don't want to feel like you're bragging about your own team.
No, because I'm being legit. Because there's only like I'm like, be real with me. Like, I feel like those are the only.
No, you're right. You're right.
Say,
There's only you're right.
If the Celtics were to somehow make it to the finals, they're gonna get their ass swept.
I wouldn't. Again,
they would 100%. The Lakers are.
Let's
the Lakers
okay. We need to move on from this, but I think it's fair. I am tired of hearing about how much stronger the West is. Not so much because it's untrue, but because it's like becoming more of a slogan than an actual statement. And it's like, okay, what do you do about it? Like, there's nothing you can do about it.
personally, I'm not complaining because I live on the West Coast and it's cool seeing good West Coast basketball.
Fair enough.
There you have it,
Um,
folks.
what's up?
All right.
So there you have it, folks.
West Coast, best coast, but my team rides in the East.
All right. We should move on
Yeah,
to
so
Draymond
the
Green.
last point, or last topic we have.
Not
For
last, but like, is there
you
time
know,
for other stuff after this? Or
maybe we'll see. I'm looking at the timer.
okay.
Maybe, may not. Look at it. So recently, the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers have went on and said that certain players, namely Blake Griffin for the Pistons and Andre Drummond for the Cleveland Cavaliers, will not be playing games, as you know the teams have publicly went out and said we're not going to play them. We're going to try to trade them. If not, we might just buy out their contract. Draymond Green, who's been very vocal when it comes to league, league management and everything, had a very, very, spirited response that I completely agree with. But he's just talking about how why is there a double standard between players and organizations in the sense that when players, say like, "Hey, I want out of this team because we're not going to be able to, like I can't win here," or a player says I can't play for a week because I need to take care of my personal and mental health, or if a player says, "Hey, like maybe you should come here one time," and play with me, like they get fined or possibly suspended, right? But with team organizations that can go out and say, "Hey, we're gonna trade you and we're not gonna play you," you know, and not get any repercussions. I That's the double standard that the NBA is currently facing when it comes, the player empowerment and team ownership that pays these players their contracts. So I kind of want to see what you guys' thoughts are on it. I'm pro player, um, and and all the time. And like the way I debated it was, look, if any one of us in this room can like say like I don't really like the job that I'm working at, I'm gonna go apply somewhere else and work somewhere else like freely. I feel like it should be allowed that like NBA players should be like, yeah, I can't see a winning future here. I would like to be traded. I don't think
Uh,
there should be any issue with that. I don't like. I get it. Like James Harden totally botched like how he got to Brooklyn. Like he could have handled it totally better. But I'm just saying that um,
well, he
I don't know
wanted to
why
tank his value, so they would trade him.
fair. But I mean, like again, he's still like. I think the fact that he's still like sure if he played like crap, sure, but like he at least he's still out there playing. They're telling like you're telling the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons are telling players like, hey, like you're not gonna be playing. Like so, if they're not playing, what even value? Like, if they're not even getting any market now, like, what market is there even gonna be if they're gonna be at least show what they can possibly do, right?
Well, my issue. Look, I actually agree that I don't think it's okay to just sit players that you're expecting to trade. I'm not saying that the league, like I don't know what legal action you could take, but from like just an optics perspective and a like generally speaking, from a sort of emotional optics perspective, it's terrible. I hate the idea of just getting players to stop playing. Like I hate that.
Yeah.
That said, I think you got to keep in mind that these guys they have fully guaranteed contracts. It's not as
Mhm.
if they like players who are able to force their way to a different team are players who aren't going to have any issues with management because they are superstars. They are the most important people in their respective organizations.
Yeah.
It's not like the NFL where the coach is super important. It's not like soccer where the manager is super important. Here, it's very clear. And those positions are important, but the most important position in basketball is the star player.
And
And
so, okay,
star
but okay, sorry. So you can go finish.
most stars have immense power over where they play.
Yeah.
Furthermore, I these guys have guaranteed contracts. It's not as
Mhm.
if that they're precariously employed. What
Yeah.
what what I think is probably more important to focus on than I think Draymond is kind of has a weird. I don't exactly think it fits up one to one. It's
Okay.
not the same as someone who is being fired. It's someone who's being transferred to work in like a different branch of the same company. So the NBA is a monopoly on basketball. The teams are essentially franchises. They are franchises. They are different branches.
Yeah.
And a lot of these players, it says in their contract, we can transfer you to a different franchise. And some players
Yeah.
have a no trade clause, so on and so forth.
Okay.
I don't think that it's necessarily bad for players to request a trade, but I think the other side to that is I don't think that teams should be bemoaned for trading their players, and teams do get bemoaned for trading their players. They people are saying, oh, Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin are being done dirty. People did say, oh, DeMar DeRozan, he was done dirty. But that doesn't necessarily mean players should go. I guess what we have right now is it's the business aspect and the basketball aspect and the entertainment aspect all against each other, because you can't have all players decide to play wherever they want. Either they would sign guarantee 1-year contracts and not be guaranteed any money in the long term, or they would just all form, super duper teams or all go play in LA and Miami. It's therein lies the issue. It's you have to restrict it so that the league can function. The question has always been, how much do you restrict it?
So again, here's my thing. So to your point though, again, like I think that the issue here is like, again, when a player demands a trade, right, he gets, absolutely crucified for it, right? Until he actually gets traded and finally starts winning, right? Case in point, Anthony Davis and James Harden. They're absolutely like put to the stake when they first demanded traded, their trades, but now that they're winning, everyone's cheering for it. But when an organization comes out and says, yeah, we're gonna not play this guy, we're gonna trade him, or straight up we're gonna trade Isaiah Thomas, in the case of the Celtics 4 or 5 years ago. Was it 4 years ago, sorry. you know Everyone, like, I think it's I think it's unfair that, like, organizations almost get scot free with the fact that, like, you know they get the, oh, it's just the business card, when when players try to do it, it's like they're not loyal. But like, why should players, pledge loyalty, to a team that's not going to help them win, but an organization, requires, people to be like, you have to be loyal to the organization when the organization will be loyal to you.
This
But
always has been the issue. Is
yeah,
again, you have to restrict player freedom so that the league can function. At the same time, the players are the employees and should have as much freedom as possible.
yeah.
It,
But to your point though, like, like, what I'm trying to get at here is, like, sure, like, this is going back to, the superstar is the most important part of the team. I think the point where, people are trying, I think what I'm trying to get at here is, if you're an organization and, for example, let's take Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards, right? He's your star player. You obviously traded John Wall to, make sure that Bradley Beal is the main focal point of your team. It's up to the organization to surround your star player with players that'll help contribute to winning, right? And in Bradley Beal in the Washington Wizards case, the Wizards have not had a roster that is willing to, that is competitive enough to go be in the playoffs. And even though he hasn't publicly, wanted to or said it, I wouldn't be surprised if Bradley Beal just suddenly says, yeah, I know I just signed this contract extension this past summer, but I want out because there's no way we're winning with this kind of roster. Like, as much as you can say, like, you have to restrict player movement because they are contractually obligated. I feel like it's also it's also, on the organization to be like, okay, well, we locked up our star player for 4 more years. What can we do in the next 1 to 2, maybe 3, to make sure he stays all 4 years? then that's where the problem is when it comes to why players want out.
I think that we're overlooking the fact that star players already have that power.
They do, but like in team building,
But yeah, they already have that power. But I
yeah,
understand though, because like I don't want to have to be the guy who has to make the decision because it would be literally impossible to give the players complete freedom in choosing their team without completely
yeah.
ruining the league. And
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to be
definitely.
that guy who has to make that decision because I
Oh,
understand why it's such a hard decision.
oh, definitely. Like I think we're on the same page in the sense that like again, players are contractually obligated, but there should be they should at least have have an out to where they should go. You know, I just I just think like and I think this is what Jamal was trying to get at is just I think mainly towards the media in the sense that like I don't the media shouldn't like praise one side but then be anti-player on the other. Is I think what he's also trying to get at. But I don't know, like I wouldn't say that the NBA has a crisis on their hands in terms of this because again, you just saw like Anthony Davis and LeBron James sign huge contract extensions to stay with the Lakers. We saw Paul George do the same thing. Steph Curry may is probably going to be able to do that whenever he's eligible. I think he's already eligible now, but given the fact that him and the Warriors are always going to be somewhat
Steph
competitive, like
Curry is the
he
Warriors.
is the Warriors. Like he's gonna probably stay. Like sure, like player movement has been like an all time high, but I don't think it's that big of an issue when a lot of the player movement has been role players and non superstars. Like the only reason why like this is a huge issue is because superstars like are the big name ticket that like oh wow like this guy wants out like that's crazy.
Well,
Like
and usually there's only one or two examples of that for per year. Like this year it was Harden
mhm.
and I guess to some extent Oladipo, but that was about it.
Yeah,
It
but
was
like yeah, and then like a couple years ago was like Paul George and Anthony Davis. Like it's not like the way people make it seem is like it's so like rampant that everyone wants to leave. Like no, it's not. Like people are staying long term with their teams. It's just again with with how short windows are to win titles are in the league is, and we've seen it like the past decade with the Miami Heat, Golden State Warriors, even the Toronto Raptors 1 year. Um, no one can build a consistent dynasty like the Spurs anymore. Like you only have 2 to 3 years as a window for your title.
hmm
I
um
know we've been hogging a lot. I know Deuce. Yeah, I want to give you some room to chime in on it.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a sensitive issue because like you look at it from the fans' point of view, and it certainly looks like players are just teaming up and it's cheap and
Hmm.
they don't want it to happen. But like, really,
I think it's
you
an
gotta look at
overstated
it.
issue.
You have to look at it
Yeah.
from the player's point of view. Like,
Hmm.
maybe it's not what's most important, but like, they are humans. And I think the example that Miggy had, whereas, if you had the opportunity to transfer to a better job where you had, you know, a chance of being happier whilst making the same amount of money, like, I feel like you wouldn't pass that up. So I feel like
Yeah.
I mean, the fans are the most important just because, they make everything possible, but,
Hmm.
it's only to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, these people that are putting on a show, they are humans. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really
I
have
agree
like a
with you.
definitive position on the issue,
Hmm.
It's
but
okay to not have one of those.
I
Yeah.
feel like player empowerment, I guess, is what they call the movement. It's very
Yeah.
important.
I think
Yeah.
I think my final point on this is gonna be is that like again from the fan perspective again like does it hurt to like see like your favorite players be like yeah I want out and whatnot um and everything but I think at the end of the day like I like as avid basketball fans like that we are like I think it's amazing like you see like you know couple of the league's best players team up to like try to win a ring. Like we saw, like it's easy to hate because they're so good, but like looking back on it, the KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond Warriors played beautiful basketball. Um, Miami Big Three played beautiful basketball last year. Anthony Davis and LeBron James and that Lakers team played great defensive basketball. Like at the end of the day, like the product doesn't change. The product is is still as good as it is. It's
Yeah,
just it just hurts if your team has to be at the brunt, has to take the brunt of like your superstar leaving. You
and it's
know,
unfortunate because the only way to save those small market teams is to like obliterate the salary cap, which is not
yeah,
something that I think people can do. And there's also
Right.
in the NBA, the franchises are much smaller and quite
yeah,
frankly would not be able to afford to do the kind of massive salary buys that the NFL does.
Right.
yeah.
The reason the salaries are so huge in the NBA is because I think the NBA is already better about player empowerment than most other leagues. It's always had the
Mhm.
strongest union. It's
Sure.
always had the compared to the revenue, the highest player salaries.
Yep.
Because there's nobody in the world who can do what the guys in the NBA do. It's if they can do what they can do in the NBA, they're already in the NBA.
I agree.
That's what you're paying for when you see these massive salaries.
Hmm. I get it. I can see it. But I think okay. I know it's the last point, but I think for sure just to finalize, like you bring up the point of like with small markets and smaller teams, but I think at the end of the day though, like if you're an owner of the NBA team, right, and you buy a team and you ask like you buy you spend $1 billion on it, right? The expectation is that when you buy the team, you know that you have to pay the salaries and like if you're buying a team who wants to compete and you're cheap as hell, looking at you, Tillman Fertitta, the Houston Rockets, like it's inherently your fault why the team is bad and why players want to leave. Cough, James Harden. But like that's the thing. Like I think you know, I think the way it's portrayed, like fans like will go against the players for wanting to leave, but at the end of the day, you got to also look at the fact that ownership could be cheap as hell and not help provide the means to build a competitive team like they said they would. But that is that is what it is. Um, with that being said, we are kind of running out of time here over at Nephew Hours. Deuce, Dan, it's been a great stream and great talking basketball with you guys. It's always a pleasure. To all our viewers who will be seeing this on like Twitch or on YouTube, again, thank you for all your support the past couple of months. Um, again, continue to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us here on Twitch. Again, we have merch. Feel free to buy some super cheap. We'll ship anywhere. But seriously though, guys, thank you guys for all the support. Dan, Deuce, again, thank you for
Of course.
just always fun talking basketball with you guys. Always a pleasure. And with that, guys, you guys have a great night. Peace out.
Bye.